I want to bring in MSNBC legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Kristen Gibbons. Kristen, first, just what you've been hearing so far from the defense and the insistence on Michael Cohen as being the main weight on all of this so far.
You know, Jose, this is not anything none of us ever didn't predict, right? We knew that he would start off guns blazing against Cohen because he has to minimize Cohen's testimony. Cohen's testimony is the evidence that really links Trump to the falsification of the business records, but more importantly, to the concealment of it for the purpose of election interference. So I'm not surprised. And quite frankly, I would expect the prosecution to come off kind of talking about what I always like to say, the pillars of credibility, talking about, motive. What motive at this point, after going to jail, after pleading guilty, what motive at this point does Cohen have to lie? And keep in mind that last question from the defense with regard to Cohen's testimony, Cohen had to admit, I'm actually going to lose money if Trump is found guilty. I think I have more opportunities if Trump is found not guilty. But he kind of emphasized that his testimony has no motivation to be fabricated anyway. I think the other thing was his demeanor when he was on the stand. The demeanor, I think the prosecution really has to focus on. He didn't go on and on. He answered the questions very directly. He came off very credibly. And then lastly, with regard to the pillars of credibility, with regard to Cohen's testimony, much of what he says is corroborated by both the documentary evidence as well as other testimonial evidence. So I think that is extremely important with regard to the Cohen is lying defense and countering it by the prosecution.
Right now, inside the courtroom, the government wants you to believe that in August 2015, that President Trump and Cohen all got together and said, OK, we're going to commit a crime. Let's enter into a conspiracy to influence the 2016 election. So what did they do? Positive stories about President Trump. What did Mr. Pecker tell you? What they discussed? There was no in-depth discussion. It was a general discussion of an effort to try and help President Trump. And then Blanche says many of the stories National Enquirer ran were just recycled. The idea that the National Enquirer could criminally, corruptly influence an election by rerunning stories should make you shake your head. It makes no sense. And he goes on to say, remember that word, catch and kill. Meantime, our color inside the courtroom right now is that jurors are awake. They are taking notes, others looking at testimony and exhibits that are on the screen during these closing arguments. But our Laura Jarrett saying that she wouldn't necessarily describe them as enthralled with this closing argument. In terms of the purpose of closing arguments, can you describe for us sort of the difference, Kristen, in the closing arguments compared to opening statements?
Yeah, so opening statements are basically the jury's preview of what they are going to hear. And really, quite frankly, what each attorney believes they will be able to prove there at the witness stand. Whereas the closing arguments, that is the attorney's opportunity to really tie together all of the pieces of evidence and make arguments, go ahead and make those leaps as to what those evidence actually means. And for the defense, the goal for the closing argument is to really hammer in how the prosecution failed to connect all of the dots, failed to connect the dots that really prove each of the elements of the crime and show that they didn't meet their burden beyond a reasonable doubt for a criminal case. So I think with regard to that segment that you read, I think the prosecution really needs to counter that in a very specific way. Catch and kill is now something that society knows very familiarly. They know it from the Me Too movement. They knew it in the past 5 years. Catch and kill has really been something that has come to the forefront of society, where in different news agencies such as the AMI and the National Enquirer buy these stories. So it's not a new concept. But where it comes into play here, and I think the prosecutors have to really simplify this to counter what Blanche was saying with regard to AMI has doing this for decades, as Jasmine had reported, I think the prosecution really has to be very clear. Yes, AMI has been doing this for decades. Yes, inherently, it is not anything wrong with it. But again, former President Trump in 2015, in 2016, he had certain restrictions with regard to what he could accept and take some money that he could get. And because he was part of that conversation, where they had made the decision that they were going to catch and kill negative stories, where they were going to promote positive stories, he was still bound by those campaign finance laws. And that's the key. The prosecution really has to simplify that to the jury to show that former President Trump at that time was in a different position than all of the other individuals that AMI had caught and killed stories for. And because he falsified those business records to conceal, therein lies the crime. And I think the prosecution really has to simplify that down for the jury.